The story of Jacob begins with a family in crisis. Isaac and Rebekah had been married for 20 long years, but they had no children. In those days, being unable to have children was seen as a shame, a sign of God's disapproval. Isaac prayed desperately, and finally, God answered. Rebekah became pregnant. But this pregnancy was different. The babies inside her fought fiercely, as if they were already at war. Troubled, Rebekah cried out, "Why is this happening to me?" God gave her a shocking answer. "Two nations are inside you. The older will serve the younger." This went against tradition. The firstborn son always inherited the greater blessing. Yet God had a different plan. When the time came, Rebekah gave birth to twins. The first was red and covered in hair. They named him Esau, meaning hairy. The second came out gripping his brother's heel. They named him Jacob, meaning he grasps the heel, or, some say, he deceives. Even at birth, Jacob was trying to pull his brother back, as if fighting for his place in the world. As the boys grew, their differences became clear. Esau was a wild man, a skill hunter who loved the open fields. His father, Isaac, adored him, especially the taste of his fresh game. Jacob, on the other hand, was quiet. He preferred staying near the tents, thinking, watching. His mother, Rebekah, favored him. This favoritism created tension. Parents should never pick favorites, but Isaac and Rebekah did. And it would lead to disaster. One day, Esau came home from hunting, exhausted and starving. Jacob was cooking a pot of stew, its rich smell filling the air. Esau demanded, "Let me eat some of that red stew now." Jacob saw his chance. "First, sell me your birthright," he said. The birthright was everything. The family's spiritual leadership, a double portion of inheritance, God's covenant promise. But Esau, ruled by his hunger, didn't care. "I'm about to die anyway," he said. "What good is the birthright to me?" Jacob made him swear an oath. Then he gave Esau bread and stew. Esau ate, drank, and walked away, never realizing what he had just thrown away. Years passed. Isaac grew old and his eyes grew weak. One day he called Esau to him. "My son, hunt some wild game for me. Prepare my favorite meal. Then I will give you my blessing before I die." But Rebekah was listening. She hurried to Jacob. "Your father plans to bless Esau. Go, bring me 2 young goats. I'll make the meal. You must wear Esau's clothes and pretend to be him." Jacob was afraid. "What if my father touches me? He'll know I'm not Esau. I'll get a curse instead of a blessing." Rebekah was firm. "Let the curse fall on me. Just do as I say." So Jacob obeyed. He covered his smooth arms and neck with goat skins. He carried the meal to Isaac. The old man was suspicious. "Who are you?" Jacob lied. "I am Esau, your firstborn." Isaac reached out, felt the hairy arms, and sighed. The voice is Jacob's, but the hands are Esau's. He ate the meal. Then he blessed Jacob, thinking he was blessing Esau. "May nations serve you. May you rule over your brothers. Cursed be those who curse you, and blessed be those who bless you." The blessing was given. The trap was set. And when Esau returned, the real war will begin. The moment Isaac finished blessing Jacob, the tent flap flew open. Esau stood there, holding a steaming plate of freshly hunted game. The smell of roasted meat filled the air as he proudly announced, "Father, I'm back. Sit up and eat, then you can bless me." A terrible silence fell over the tent. Isaac began to tremble violently. Who was here just now?" he whispered. "I already ate and blessed him, and he will truly be blessed." Esau's face twisted in confusion, then horror. His voice rose to a raw scream. "Bless me too, Father." But it was too late. The words had been spoken. The blessing could not be taken back. Isaac could only say, "Your brother came with deceit and took your blessing." Esau's cry of anguish echoed through the camp. "First he steals my birthright, now my blessing. Isn't he rightly named Jacob, the deceiver?" Hot tears streamed down his face as he demanded, "Don't you have even one blessing left for me?" Isaac's voice was heavy with sorrow as he spoke over Esau. "You will live far from rich land. You'll survive by your sword. You'll serve your brother. But when you grow restless, You will throw his yoke off your neck." Esau's eyes burned with hatred. "The days of mourning for my father are near," he muttered. "Then I will kill Jacob." Word reached Rebekah. She called Jacob to her, her hands shaking. "Your brother plans to murder you. You must flee to my brother Laban in Haran. Stay there until Esau's anger fades." But first, Rebekah went to Isaac. "I can't bear the thought of Jacob marrying a Hittite woman like Esau did," she said carefully. Isaac agreed. He called Jacob and gave him a new command. "Go to Paddan Aram, marry one of Laban's daughters." Then Isaac blessed Jacob again, this time knowing exactly who was blessing, with a covenant promise of Abraham. That night, Jacob packed quickly. He could still hear Esau's furious shouts in the distance. With only his staff and a small bundle, he slipped away under cover of darkness, a fugitive running from his brother's wrath. After days of hard travel, Jacob reached a lonely place in the wilderness as the sun set. He found a smooth stone to use as a pillow and collapsed onto the hard ground. As he stared up at the stars, his mind swirled with fear and guilt. Had God really wanted him to get the blessing this way? Would Esau ever forgive him? Exhausted, Jacob finally slept. And then he dreamed. A dazzling ladder stretched from earth to heaven, with angels going up and down it. At the top stood the Lord himself, who spoke, "I am the God of Abraham and Isaac. The land you're lying on, I'm giving it to you and your descendants. They'll be like dust, uncountable. And through you, all families on earth will be blessed. I am with you, and I will bring you back home." Jacob woke with a gasp. "God is in this place," he whispered in awe. "This is a house of God, the gate of heaven." Taking the stone he'd slept on, he set it upright and poured oil over it, marking the sacred spot. He named it Bethel, House of God. Then Jacob made a vow. "If God protects me on this journey, gives me food and clothes, and brings me home safely, then the Lord will be my God, and this stone will be his house. And of all he gives me, I will give back a tenth." As the morning sun rose, Jacob picked up his staff and turned toward Haran, not knowing that his real struggles were just beginning. Jacob's journey brought him to a well outside Haran. Exhausted from weeks of travel, he watched 3 flocks of sheep waiting to be watered. A massive stone covered the well's mouth, too heavy for one man to move alone. "Where are you from?" Jacob asked the shepherds. "Haran," they replied. "Do you know Laban?" "Yes, and look, here comes his daughter Rachel with his sheep." Jacob's heart leaped as he saw Rachel approaching with her flock. Without hesitation, he single-handedly rolled the heavy stone away, watering her sheep himself. Then he kissed Rachel and wept aloud. This was family, his mother's people. When Rachel ran to tell Laban, her father rushed out to meet Jacob. "You are my own flesh and blood," Laban exclaimed, embracing him. For a month, Jacob lived with them as family. Then Laban made an offer. "Just because you're family doesn't mean you should work for free. What should your wages be?" Jacob had fallen deeply in love with beautiful Rachel. "I'll work 7 years for you," he said boldly, "if you give me Rachel as my wife." Laban agreed. To Jacob, those 7 years flew by like days because of his love for Rachel. Finally, the wedding night arrived. The feast lasted all day. When evening came, Laban brought the veiled bride to Jacob's tent. But when morning light came, it wasn't Rachel lying beside Jacob. It was Leah, Rachel's older sister. "Why have you deceived me?" Jacob roared, storming into Laban's tent. Laban remained calm. "It's not our custom to marry the younger daughter before the older. Finish this wedding week with Leah. Then you can marry Rachel too, for another 7 years of work." Jacob had no choice. After his week with Leah, he married Rachel, the woman he truly loved, and began another 7 years of labor. The deceiver had been deceived. God saw that Leah was unloved, so he opened her womb while Rachel remained barren. Leah bore 4 sons in quick succession. Reuben, see a son. Simeon, God heard. Levi, attached. And Judah, praise. Each birth carried Leah's desperate hope. "Surely now my husband will love me." Rachel grew bitterly jealous. "Give me children or I'll die," she demanded of Jacob. Following ancient custom, she gave Jacob her servant Bilhah as a wife. Bilhah bore Dan, God judged, and Naphtali, my struggle. Not to be outdone, Leah gave her servant Zilpah to Jacob, who bore Gad, good fortune, and Asher, happy. Then Leah conceived again, Issachar, reward, and Zebulun, honor. Finally, after years of waiting, Rachel gave birth to Joseph, may God add, Jacob's clear favorite. Meanwhile, Jacob's flocks multiplied under his care. Laban's sons began grumbling, Jacob is taking all our father's wealth. Even Laban's attitude cooled. Then God spoke to Jacob, return to your homeland. Jacob called Rachel and Leah to the fields. Your father has cheated me 10 times over, he explained. But God has been with me. Last night, he told me to go home. The sisters agreed. Do whatever God has told you. So when Laban was away shearing sheep, Jacob gathered his family, flocks, and possessions and fled toward Canaan. Rachel secretly stole her father's household gods. The deceiver was leaving, but Laban wouldn't let him go without a fight. 3 days after Jacob fled, Laban got the news. Jacob has run away. Furious, Laban gathered his relatives and chased after Jacob. After 7 days, he caught up with them in the hill country of Gilead. But that night, God warned Laban in a dream, be careful what you say to Jacob, whether good or bad. When Laban finally reached Jacob's camp, he confronted him. Why did you sneak away like a thief? You didn't even let me kiss my daughters and grandchildren goodbye. And why did you steal my gods? Jacob stood his ground. I left secretly because I was afraid you'd take your daughters from me by force. But if you find your gods with anyone here, that person will not live. Jacob didn't know Rachel had taken the idols. She hid them in her camel's saddle and sat on them. When Laban searched her tent, she said, Don't be angry, my lord. I can't stand up because it's my time of month. Laban never found them. Now Jacob's anger boiled over. For 20 years I served you. Your flocks never miscarried. I never ate your rams. When wild animals attacked, I paid for the losses myself. You changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my fathers hadn't been with me, you would have sent me away with nothing. Laban had no answer. Finally, he said, Let's make a peace treaty. They piled stones as a witness between them. Laban called it Jegar-sahadutha, Aramaic for heap of witness, while Jacob called it Geod, Hebrew for the same. They swore not to cross the pile to harm each other. The next morning, Laban kissed his daughters and grandchildren goodbye and returned home. As Jacob continued his journey, angels met him. This is God's camp, he said, naming the place Mahanaim, 2 camps. But Jacob's greatest test still lay ahead, Esau. Jacob sent messengers ahead. Tell my lord Esau that Jacob humbly asked for your favor. The messengers returned with terrifying news. Esau is coming to meet you. With 400 men, Jacob panicked. He divided his family and flocks into 2 groups, thinking, if Esau attacks one, the other might escape. Then he prayed desperately, God of my fathers, you told me to return home. I'm unworthy of all your kindness. Save me from Esau. That night, Jacob sent gifts ahead, flocks of goats, sheep, camels, and donkeys, to appease Esau. Then he moved his family across the Jabbok River. But Jacob stayed behind, alone, in the darkness. A man appeared and wrestled with Jacob until dawn. When a man saw he couldn't overpower Jacob, he touched Jacob's hip, wrenching it from its socket. Let me go, the man said. I won't let you go unless you bless me. Jacob gasped. What is your name? Jacob. Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have overcome. What is your name? Jacob asked. Why do you ask? The man replied, then blessed him. As the sun rose, Jacob limped away. He had a new name, a new identity, and a painful reminder that night. Now, he was ready to face Esau. Morning light revealed Jacob's limp as he gathered his family. He arranged them carefully, the servant wives and their children first, Leah and her children next, Rachel and Joseph last. He walked ahead, bowing 7 times as Esau approached with his 400 men. But then something unexpected happened. Esau ran to Jacob, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. Both brothers wept. After 20 years of anger, the moment of reconciliation had come. You didn't need to send all those gifts, Esau said, looking at the herd of animals Jacob had sent ahead. Jacob replied humbly, "To see your face is like seeing the face of God, now that you receive me favorably." He insisted Esau keep the gifts. "God has been gracious to me, and I have enough." Esau offered to travel together, but Jacob declined politely. "The children are tender, and the flocks need care. Let my lord go ahead. We'll follow slowly." So Esau returned to Seir, while Jacob went to Sukkot, where he built shelters for his family and livestock. Jacob's next stop was Shechem, where he bought land and set up camp. But tragedy struck when his daughter Dinah went to visit local women. Shechem, son of the city's ruler, saw her, took her, and violated her. Yet afterward, he claimed to love her and asked to marry her. When Jacob heard what happened, he waited silently until his sons returned from the fields. Shechem's father Hamor came to negotiate. "Let's intermarry and live together peacefully." But Jacob's sons answered deceitfully, "We can't give our sister to an uncircumcised man. If every male among you gets circumcised, then we'll agree." 3 days later, while the men of Shechem were still in pain from circumcision, Simeon and Levi attacked the city, killing every male. They took Dinah back and plundered the town. Jacob was horrified. "You've made me stink among the Canaanites. Now they may unite against us and destroy us." But his sons argued, "Should our sister be treated like a prostitute?" God then told Jacob, "Go up to Bethel and settle there." So Jacob ordered his household, "Get rid of all foreign gods. Purify yourselves and change your clothes." They handed over their idols, even household gods Rachel had stolen from Laban, and Jacob buried them under an oak tree. At Bethel, God appeared to Jacob again. "Your name is Jacob, but you will be called Israel." God reaffirmed his promises, the land, numerous descendants, kings among them. Jacob set up a stone pillar and poured wine and oil over it. As they traveled from Bethel, Rachel went into labor. The birth was difficult. As she struggled, the midwife said, "Don't be afraid, you have another son." With her dying breath, Rachel named him Benoni, son of my sorrow. But Jacob called him Benjamin, son of my right hand. Rachel died and was buried near Bethlehem. Jacob set up a pillar over her tomb. Jacob's family suffered another blow when his eldest son Reuben slept with Bilhah, Jacob's concubine. Though Jacob heard about it, he said nothing, but he never forgot. The family eventually came to Mamre, where Isaac lived. At 180 years old, Isaac breathed his last. Esau and Jacob buried him together, briefly reunited in their grief. Now Jacob settled in Canaan, but his family troubles weren't over. His favoritism toward Joseph, Rachel's firstborn, created bitter jealousy among the brothers. Jacob made Joseph a special ornate robe, which only deepened their resentment. When Joseph began having dreams about his brothers bowing to him, their hatred grew. "Listen to this dream," Joseph told them. "We were binding sheaves in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around and bowed to mine. Will you really rule over us?" They snapped. Their anger festered as Joseph shared another dream, this time with the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowing to him. Even Jacob scolded him. "Will your mother and I actually bow down to you?" But Jacob kept the matter in mind. The brothers' jealousy reached a breaking point when they saw Joseph approaching from a distance. "Here comes that dreamer," they said. "Let's kill him and throw him into a pit. We'll say a wild animal ate him." Only Reuben's intervention saved Joseph's life. "Let's not kill him, just throw him in the pit." He planned to rescue Joseph later. When Joseph arrived, they stripped off his special robe and threw him into an empty cistern. As they sat down to eat, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelite traders. Judah had an idea. "What good will it do to kill our brother? Let's sell him instead." The brothers agreed, selling Joseph for 20 shekels of silver to merchants heading to Egypt. They took Joseph's robe, slaughtered a goat, and dipped the robe in its blood. When they showed it to Jacob, he recognized it immediately. A wild animal has devoured him. Joseph is torn to pieces. Jacob tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and mourned for many days. His children tried to comfort him, but he refused. I will go down to Sheol mourning for my son. Meanwhile, in Egypt, Joseph was sold to Potiphar, captain of Pharaoh's guard. The brothers thought their problems were over, but their actions would haunt them for years to come. Years passed, and the pain of losing Joseph never left Jacob's heart. Meanwhile, in Egypt, Joseph rose from slavery to become Pharaoh's right-hand man after interpreting dreams, predicting 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. The famine spread to Canaan, and Jacob heard there was grain in Egypt. He told his sons, "Why are you just standing around? Go down to Egypt and buy some grain, so we don't starve." So 10 of Joseph's brothers made the journey, leaving Benjamin behind at Jacob's insistence. "I've already lost Joseph," he said. "I won't risk losing Rachel's other son." When the brothers arrived in Egypt, they bowed before the governor, not recognizing him as Joseph. He recognized him immediately, but pretended to be a stranger, speaking harshly through an interpreter. "You're spies," he accused. "No, my lord," they protested. "We're honest men from Canaan, here to buy food. We were 12 brothers. One is no more, and the youngest remains with our father." Joseph tested them, keeping Simeon prisoner, while the others returned with grain. "Bring your youngest brother to prove your honesty," he demanded. "Otherwise, you'll never see Simeon again." Back in Canaan, Jacob refused to let Benjamin go. "Joseph is dead. Simeon may be dead. Must I lose Benjamin too?" But when their food ran out, Judah promised, "I will personally guarantee Benjamin's safety. If I don't bring him back, let the blame remain on me forever." Reluctantly, Jacob agreed. He sent gifts, balm, honey, spices, myrrh, pistachios, and almonds, along with double the silver, hoping to appease the Egyptian governor. When Joseph saw Benjamin among them, he was overcome. He hurried to his private room and wept. After composing himself, he ordered a feast prepared. The brothers were seated in order of age, astonishing them. Benjamin received portions 5 times larger than anyone else. The next morning, Joseph had his silver cup secretly placed in Benjamin's sack. After the brothers left, he sent soldiers after them. "Why have you repaid kindness with theft?" the soldiers demanded when they found the cup. The brothers tore their clothes in despair. They knew their father would die of grief if Benjamin didn't return. Back before Joseph, Judah stepped forward. "How can I return to my father without the boy? His life is bound up with Benjamin's. Please, let me remain as your slave instead." Joseph could no longer control himself. "Send everyone out," he commanded. Then he wept so loudly the Egyptians heard it. "I am Joseph," he told his stunned brothers. "Is my father still alive?" The brothers were speechless with terror. But Joseph said, "Don't be angry with yourselves for selling me here. God sent me ahead of you to preserve life. Hurry back to my father and tell him, Joseph is alive. He rules all Egypt. Come quickly." Pharaoh approved Joseph's plan, sending wagons loaded with provisions. As the brothers prepared to leave, Joseph gave them new clothes, with 5 sets of garments for Benjamin and 300 pieces of silver. To his father, he sent 10 donkeys loaded with Egypt's finest goods. When the brothers returned shouting, "Joseph is alive," Jacob's heart nearly stopped. "I won't believe it until I see him with my own eyes," he said. But when he saw the Egyptian wagons, his spirit revived. "Enough! My son Joseph is alive. I must see him before I die." So Jacob set out for Egypt with all his family, 66 descendants in total. At Beersheba, God spoke to him in a vision, "Do not be afraid to go to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there. I will go down with you, and I will surely bring you back." When they reached Goshen, Joseph came in his chariot to meet them. He threw his arms around his father and wept for a long time. Jacob said, "Now I can die, since I've seen your face and know you're alive." Joseph settled his family in the best part of Egypt, the region of Ramesses, as Pharaoh had commanded. And there, in this foreign land, Israel's family began to flourish, just as God had promised. Jacob lived in Egypt for 17 years. It was a time of peace and reunion. But as his strength faded, he called Joseph to his bedside. He said, "Swear to me that you will bury me in Canaan with my fathers." Joseph placed his hand under Jacob's thigh and swore to do this. Soon after, word spread that Jacob was dying. Joseph took his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, to see their grandfather. Jacob struggled to sit up. He said, "God Almighty appeared to me at Luz in Canaan and blessed me. He told me, 'I will make you fruitful, and a company of nations will come from you.'" Then Jacob looked at Joseph's sons and said, "These boys are mine now. Ephraim and Manasseh will be like Reuben and Simeon to me." Then something unexpected happened. Jacob placed his right hand on Ephraim's head, the younger son, and his left hand on Manasseh's head. Joseph tried to correct him, but Jacob refused. He said, "I know what I'm doing. The younger will be greater." Once again, God's pattern repeated. The older would serve the younger. Jacob gathered all 12 sons to his bedside. He said, "Come close. I will tell you what will happen in days to come." One by one, he spoke over them. Reuben, the firstborn, lost his honor. Jacob said, "Unstable as water, you will not excel." Simeon and Levi were scattered. Jacob said, "Cursed be their anger, so fierce." Judah received the royal promise. Jacob said, "The scepter will not depart from you until Shiloh comes." Zebulun would dwell by the sea. Issachar would be like a strong donkey resting between burdens. Dan would judge his people. Gad would be attacked but ultimately victorious. Asher would have rich food fit for kings. Naphtali would be like a doe set free. Joseph was called a fruitful vine. Jacob said, "Blessings pour down like rain upon him." Benjamin was called a ravenous wolf who devours his prey. When he finished, Jacob gave final instructions. He said, "Bury me with my fathers in the cave of Machpelah, where Abraham and Sarah lie, where Isaac and Rebekah lie, where I buried Leah." Then he drew his feet into the bed, took one last breath, and died. Joseph wept over his father's body. He ordered the physicians to embalm Jacob, a process that took 40 days. The Egyptians mourned for 70 days. When the time came, Joseph asked Pharaoh for permission to bury his father in Canaan. Pharaoh agreed and sent all his officials with Joseph. It became a grand procession of chariots and horsemen. At the threshing floor of Atad, they mourned for 7 days so intensely that the Canaanites named the place Abel Mizraim, meaning mourning of Egypt. Finally, Jacob's sons carried him to Machpelah and buried him as requested. When they returned to Egypt, the brothers became fearful. They wondered, "What if Joseph holds a grudge against us now?" So they sent Joseph a message saying, "Before he died, your father told us to tell you, 'Forgive your brothers.'" When Joseph heard this, he wept. His brothers came and bowed before him, just as in his dreams from long ago. Joseph said to them, "Don't be afraid. You meant to do me harm, but God meant it for good, to save many lives." He comforted them and spoke kindly to them all. Years passed. Joseph lived to see his great-grandchildren. At 110 years old, he called his family together. He told them, "I am about to die, but God will visit you and bring you out of this land to the land he promised. When you leave, take my bones with you." Then Joseph died. They embalmed him and placed him in a coffin in Egypt. This stood as a silent promise that one day Israel would return home. Jacob's story shows us that God can use imperfect people to fulfill his perfect plan. The deceiver became Israel. The runaway became the father of nations. If God could rewrite Jacob's story, imagine what he can do with yours. Did this journey inspire you? Share it with someone who needs hope today. And remember, just as God was with Jacob, he is with you. Until next time, walk in your blessing.